So we use a lot of different senses when we process things in the environment. We use our vision, we use sounds, we use smell, touch, and a lot of times when we think about influencing people, they think about vision. And one thing that sometimes gets overlooked is sound, the subtle difference that different sounds can make in terms of the way we perceive things and the way that they can change our emotion. For example, if you just take the sound of Jaws, the sound of the shark approaching the boat in the film, well, it conveys a lot of sort of negative emotional meaning about the threat of a shark. And this appreciation for the influence of sounds on shaping our perception in the terms of marketing is called audio branding, or it could be called sonic branding. Thinking about the person's experience, their sort of sound ecosystem that they have with your product or with the world in general helps shape their experience, and it creates a sort of acoustic identity for different items. So companies that really appreciate audio branding, they consider that the customer's audio experience impacts their perception at all of these different levels, including the sort of personality of the product and the promises, the values, all these sort of complicated psychological things that we can bring to our perception of an object. Sounds can also be an important way that companies can differentiate themselves from each other. For example, when Skype came on board, they didn't want to just use the standard ringtone that all the other phones are using. They wanted to distinguish themselves. But they also wanted to convey the meaning of what Skype is. They wanted to convey these sort of emotions through the sounds. So they actually did a lot of research about the sound experience that their users would have at each step. The incoming call, the sound of the call ending, and so on. So they have these sort of whimsical bounces and pops for incoming calls. And then when they went on to create a Skype that was used for business, because of the sort of different mentality of business, they tried to give it a more professional feel. So they actually shaped the sound of the entire Skype experience based on the perceived differences between the personal and the business experience. So one example of how distinct audio information can be in terms of branding is how we associate certain brands with certain sounds. And one of them would be the snap of the Snapple bottle when you pop the cap. It makes a very characteristic snap. And the Snapple company actually put a lot of thought into making sure that that sound was distinct, and also that that sound conveys information. And that is the sort of safety, the knowledge that this cap hasn't been opened before. And if the sound is so powerful, even images can be used to just prompt people to think of that sound. And this was behind a Coca-Cola campaign that was written about in a Drum article. And basically they just showed images that conjure up sounds that you would imagine. When you open up a Coke can and the air is released, or the fizzing of the Coke while it sits there. So just looking at these images can convey these very powerful sounds of the product that combine our experience of that product and make us kind of more in touch with that product. Some of the sounds that we experience, we really enjoy. Like, I personally like the sound of emptying the trash on the computer because I know I've freed up disk space. So some of these sounds have really positive experiences for us. So another example of sounds kind of conveying a really complicated psychological information is Volkswagen Jetta. They created the sound when they closed the car door, it would make this certain thunk sound. It was very distinct, and it conveyed this notion of quality. And they actually ran a commercial where they highlighted this particular sound that the Volkswagen Jetta made. And sometimes they want to reduce the sounds. For example, Dyson, the vacuum cleaner company, they put a lot of thought into what sounds their vacuum cleaner might make, but they discovered that the customers in Japan wanted a quieter vacuum because for some reason, they were vacuuming in these odd hours of the night, and they never thought that people were vacuuming at these hours, but they were, and they realized that they needed a quieter vacuum for this population. But it actually can work in the opposite direction too, because now we've got electric cars that don't make enough sound. And we are used to using the sound of an engine to help us know that a car is around, and it makes us safer if we're walking on the streets. And so in the United States, they're actually setting up a requirement for these hybrid and electric vehicles that by September 2020, if they're going faster than 18.6 miles per hour, they need to introduce artificial sounds that help notify people that they're on the road, that this car is approaching them. So these car companies are challenged with the task of determining what sort of artificial sound they're going to create to help people be aware of them. And the rock band Linkin Park is actually helping Mercedes-AMG come up with the right type of sound for their car. So you've got these sort of musical people that are getting involved in these type of questions. Then you got an article popping up from The Drum titled MasterCard Drops First Single to Expand Sonic Brand Architecture. Basically, MasterCard did a bunch of research about the customer's experience in MasterCard when they were dealing with them online, when they were dealing with them in store, point of sale sort of sounds that came up. So MasterCard actually collaborated with the sweetest artist Randall and the songwriter and producer Nicholas Molinder. And they're creating their own sounds that collectively shape the sonic experience of the MasterCard customer. And their own research claimed that 77% of customers thought the sound made their experience with MasterCard more trustworthy. So again, these are complex psychological emotions that you can convey through sounds. So thanks for checking out this video on audio branding and how the audio experience shapes people's brand's perceptions and their experience with the world in general. Let us know of any memorable brand sounds that you can think of. I'd be curious to hear about that. And I got some links below to some of the articles that I talked about here and for additional information. So hit the subscribe and the bell if you want to be notified of our new posts. Hit the like if you like this, and feel free to share it if you want to share it. And thanks for checking out this video.